I figured I would play a little bit solely because the scale that my handpan was sold to me as is called Equinoxe. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. My name is Justin, or JP, or just whatever you'd like to call me. And today we're listening to Jean-Michel Jarre with his song Équinoxe. We're going to listen to parts 1 through 4 today. And then probably next week we'll do parts 5 through 8. This is off of his album of the same name, Équinoxe, which was released in 1978. So let me just say, first of all, that I was really surprised by just how much attention the last video had gotten. Listening to Oxygen, that was like, I did not expect that. I just chose that album because I had heard a lot about it. The album cover looked really cool. But apparently a lot of you guys like really enjoyed that. So that was absolutely phenomenal. Like, I really had no idea that there were so many fans of Jean-Michel Jarre. And overwhelmingly you guys had told me to listen to his next album, which is Équinoxe. So I figured, yeah, absolutely. I just had to wait till I had the time to sit down and actually do it. Thank you guys for the recommendation. Of course, thank you for the support and like watching, because it was really surprising. I mean, I know I enjoyed the music. I just didn't know that so many other people, you know, out there would also enjoy the video and the music itself. Also, I really like that album cover. It actually looks really cool. It took me a second to like look in and kind of see what it is, but it's people like on their elbows with binoculars, it looks like, just looking at us, and it looks like from our perspective, we're on a stage. So that's kind of cool, actually. I hope that you have an amazing day. I hope you're having a really nice morning, night, whatever it may be. I hope it's the best it can be. You can join me on Twitter, join me in the comments down below. You can join me on Patreon as well. But for now, let's just go through the song. Parts 1 through 4 of Équinoxe today, and then next week we'll do the remaining parts. This is Jean-Michel Jarre with Équinoxe, or Équinoxe, part 1 through 4. Let's all just for a moment, let's all just take a really big, nice breath. Big exhalation as we return down to Earth. Get used to the gravity again, because we totally were in outer space or somewhere. We were not here. I wasn't here. You weren't there. We were somewhere. But let's all come back. Let's all return to Earth really quick. Okay. A few things. First of all, sorry if it was a really boring reaction. This is just the type of music to just like sit there and get lost in, you know? But I was enjoying it. My face probably doesn't look like the nicest when I'm just sitting there. I probably look mean, but I was enjoying it. This is the first side of the album, and it came together brilliantly. Like, it had such a nice flow. And if I can make a quick comparison to Oxygen, each of these pieces in the first side feel like thematically they flow into each other a little bit better. And this isn't a knock against Oxygen, because I love the way that the flow is carried through in that album as well. I just feel like Jean perhaps felt a little more comfortable in what he was going and setting out to do with this album, because he had the experience of the other one behind him. Because this feels like just one big, unique soundscape. I would put it like this, if I could. Oxygen was kind of like visiting different planets, but on one continuous journey, on one spaceship. So far, with side A of Équinoxe, I feel like we're on one planet, but we're exploring all of the planet. From what's beneath to what's above, the atmosphere, the life on the planet. I feel like we're on one planet and we're just getting the most out of that planet we can. So if I can give you a quick description of what I was thinking of during each of these pieces, part 1 felt to me like one big symphonic breath. It felt like one big inhalation and then one big exhalation. And then part 2 felt like waves coming in and out, but like big, widespread rip currents of waves that were coming in and out. And each time, the waves would bring something new. If you've ever been to the beach, and I'm sure a lot of you have, and you sit there and like you're at the shore watching the waves come in, each wave brings something new. Sometimes it brings a different kind of shell, sometimes the sand changes under it, sometimes the foam is there, sometimes it's not there, sometimes you get some sea algae that brushes up against your leg and you jump. But every single time that that wave comes in, even though it's expected and you know it's coming because of the current, it brings something different. So in part 2, within each of those waves and at the crest of the wave, you would get different sound effects that would kind of come out and come to the forefront, kind of like sea foam. And then even at the ending, I think of part 2, maybe a part 3, I'm not 100% sure, even had some bubbling sound effects. It sounded kind of like water drums or something like that were kind of making a kind of like big bubble kind of sound. And then part 3, we're getting kind of like the beginnings, to me, of life. That's kind of what I saw throughout this whole thing. The first part felt like destruction. The second part felt like everything coming together and life beginning to form. The third part felt like more like, okay, life is here. And then the fourth part felt like a journey through time, like watching the evolution of man and like of mankind. That's just kind of what I was thinking listening to the song. That's where my mindset was at. But what I like about music like this and pieces like this that are instrumental and they're not telling you a necessarily specific story is that you can place yourself anywhere. Your life experiences and who you are as a person will automatically kind of like, you know, entrench itself into the music, and of course the music entrenches itself into you, and it's this really unique shared experience that we call music. And another thing, coming back to part 1, and this really goes for all of the pieces, is just how patient they feel. Jean took his time when he was creating this. None of this feels rushed. None of it feels like he's like cramped for time. It feels like he made the best use of his time on the side and all of the things that he was producing and putting together. Also, in my opinion, this side also shows just how varied, of course, Jean's sound is with all the different synthesizers and things that he has, but how he uses them. He could have, like, I mean, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and his equipment, there's a lot of equipment that he has, like a lot of equipment. And he could have just thrown sounds in there randomly, and with all this different equipment in one person, it could have come across a little convoluted if he chose to put everything in at the wrong times, or certain things in at the wrong times. But I think that it shows how in tune with his own music that he is, in that none of it sounds like that. None of it sounds like the streams are being crossed, so to speak. Everything is in its rightful place. And then talking about part 1 and how I described it as like that inhale, exhale kind of feel, because as you're listening to part 1, you begin to get sound effects that are rising in pitch, right? Like, let me see if I can find one. I'm sure it's coming up soon. Like right here. See how it's rising? And it holds, it sustains. And then it dissipates, and then another one comes in behind it. It all uplifts, and it all feels like a big inhale. But then as you get towards the ending, those sounds begin to come down. I was trying to catch one. I don't know if I'll have one here. Probably not. Let me see if I can find one. Right there. Came on the tail end of it. But you can hear how the sound comes back down. So that's why I really felt like a lifted and then dropped kind of feel in part 1. That's a really nice kind of opening to the album. And then part 2 carries on that theme, except now the breathing is a little bit picked up. It's a little faster paced. And we get a little bit more ambience beginning to build around it. A little more melody beginning to form. And yet all of them come together so harmoniously. When they cross each other, when they're at their equinox, so to speak, you know, it's like their synchronicity is just overwhelming in the emotion that it carries. I don't think it might be actually, I think I'm wrong, but it sounds like if you take a kick drum, like programming, and you slow it down, you stretch it out and you pitch it down. And I mean like really, really stretch it out. Like if you've ever heard of Paul stretch, it's a little thing you can put songs through and it stretches out the song and slow the pitches and stuff like that. If you put a kick drum in that and you stretch it out, it kind of sounds a little bit like that. And all of this music also reminds me of what a lot of you guys had said about some of your experiences going to like planetariums and the like laser light shows. Like listening to this, I feel like I'm right there. That's exactly what I feel like. I've never been to one, but listening to this music makes me feel like I have. And out of the waves of part 3, once again, we get like a nice lead melody here. And eventually it builds up even more. Classical composer taking pieces like this, electronic based, and, you know, of course, translate them into like a real orchestra. I think that that'd be really, really cool to hear.